we have to get beyond this idea that SEL is let's just come together and talk about our feelings, because that's tip of the iceberg. And to be honest, that's the worst way you can start an SEL lesson, is saying, hey, how you feeling? No one wants to answer that question, especially right off the bat when you don't have a relationship with that student. So typically, how do I start at that high level? Is I start to have the students come in and say, you know what are you good at? What is something that you are the expert at in this room? What is something you can do better than anybody else? And we start to celebrate cultural assets. We start to realize that our differences make us stronger, that we don't all need to be the expert in the same thing. But when we start to come up with this collective list, wow, look at what they can do. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize you could surf. Oh my goodness, you're a chef. Oh my, and then some of it has to do with music, some of it doesn't. But we're bringing everyone together and we're understanding what that space looks like. And once we have that trust where we say, okay, we're celebrating that we are all something to somebody. Then we can start to say, what is something that you want to get better at in this classroom? Typically, as teachers, we dictate the objectives and we assess. One of the most critical SEL capacities at all levels, even kindergarten, is for students to set their own goals and then to assess how close they are to achieving that. And 9 times out of 10, they acquiesce to what we want. We need to lead them in the process of setting their own goals. So that first day, high school or college, what are you really, really good at, and what do you want out of this experience? This shows the students that we're listening. It shows the students that we want them involved in the educational process. And from that space, then we can get into more reflective activities. Then we can get students into the space of saying, what does it mean to truly have a sense of belonging? I believe that at all levels, Mickey, that there is music out there that has heart, and there is music out there that is fluff. And that doesn't mean, a lot of people right now are thinking, oh, pop music, fluff. No. Music with heart is music that's going to connect to our students' lives. And that is different for every single student and every single classroom. And if you cannot answer the question when you're selecting what music you're going to put in front of your students at all levels, kindergarten, middle school, and high school, if you can't answer the question, how is this music going to connect to my students' lives, and what are we going to do to intentionally make that so? Well, then we need to go back to the drawing board and select new music. So, good. 2 big things. Select the right music, strengths, needs, self-assessment.
Man, that's powerful. That's powerful. Do me a favor. Just simply raise your hand. That gives me an opportunity to honor you. Now, watch this. I'm going to go ahead and confess. There may be sometimes I may say something terrible like, can you give me a minute? I may even say something even more egregious like, can we table that till we finish this song? Or can I catch you at the end, especially if we're at the end of class? I may say, let me take questions as we exit today. If you give me that opportunity, I promise you, I'm going to hear what you have to say. We just have to do it in an organized fashion. Just those little things. I mean, Scott, I'm not going to go through all of them, but with each one of those, I'll just do a little bit. Talk to me about what's happening there, because I'm not the SEL guy, but what does that look like in SEL land?
You know what's interesting? That's what oftentimes people say is I'm not the SEL guy. But when I walk into a classroom where SEL is firing on all cylinders, what do I see? I see great music teaching. I see a classroom where there's engagement, where there's empowerment, where students and teachers are on the same page. So, Mickey, like it or not, you are the SEL guy. And what it really comes down to is the connection that you're making in the call and response is powerful. But in those 5 seconds, you're telling them why. And so often we're asked to go through procedures, through systems, through different ways of going through, and people just don't stop to tell us why we're doing it. And that's what leads us to say, well, I don't have to do that because that doesn't make sense to me. But when we take those 5 seconds to say, I'm doing this so the instruments don't break. I'm doing this so I like a little bit of chaos, but utter chaos, no one gets heard. And the words that you just said, I'm doing this to honor you. I'm doing this so that we can all have that cherished voice in our space. And that's what's all going to come together to create this space of belonging. The big thing is, so many of the things that we're doing now, necessarily so, and so many of the things that we struggled to do over the last 19 months related to remote instruction. We were so focused on the what. We were so focused on this is music education, and this is how we adapt it in a way that it doesn't belong online. When we stop and recenter ourselves, when we recalibrate, when we re-baseline around the why, it's amazing what happens. The how and the what gets easier. So, one thing that I've often done, and we're actually in the middle of doing this in a lot of our classes at the college level, it's called mission statement. We have it in business models, right? I'm like, oh, Scott, this is a school. This is different. But what is a mission? It centers us around common values. And every single class has a different common set of values. So, your second graders, Mickey, let me ask you this question, Mickey.
Yeah.
If I were to go into that classroom and ask your second graders, what do you believe? What do you love about music class? How would they answer?
Wow. I think they would say they love the energy and they love the fact that they get to be a part of it.
So they love energy. They love being a part of it. And then we go through and we make sure that we have a space where every student's able to put in what I would call a core value. This is why we value. This is why we love music. And my only rule here is that it has to be bigger than one person. So it can't be about their best friend. It can't be about just the music teacher. It has to be about something that is more collective. And then we come up with a way to get the red Play-Doh, the blue Play-Doh, the yellow Play-Doh, and we put it all together. And that's all a mission statement is. But when that dare comes down the line, right? And that 12-year-old boy says, you want to call me out on this? Guess what's going to happen, right? Well, that collective set of values, that's not going anywhere. Yeah. That collective set of values is why we're here. And even the toughest student is going to be able to say, yeah, you're right. I love music, and this is why I love music. And that becomes our moral compass. That becomes our centering space. So I highly encourage everybody to go out there and say, tomorrow in class, what do you love about music? Why is it special? Why are we here together doing this thing? And then when inevitably something goes awry or we lose sight or we have trouble focusing, that's our rallying call.
Wow.